You know, what's interesting about people with extremely high IQs? They rarely look the way most people expect them to look. Most people picture a high IQ person as constantly confident and impressive, always solving problems out loud, making sure everyone knows their intelligence. But psychology research consistently tells a very different story about this. Many behavioral patterns in high IQ people don't look like intelligence at all. Some of them actually look like the complete opposite of being smart. What cognitive psychologists found is that high IQ changes how you process the world. And that difference shows up in very specific, very recognizable behavioral ways. Here are 11 psychological traits consistently found in people with extremely high IQs. Trait 1. They spend a significant amount of time alone by choice. Not because they dislike people, but because their brains are constantly processing everything. The prefrontal cortex functions most effectively in quiet environments without external distraction. For a high IQ brain, solitude isn't loneliness, it's actually fuel. Research from the London School of Economics found something that seems counterintuitive at first. Highly intelligent people reported lower life satisfaction from frequent social interaction than average. Their brains don't recharge through people. They recharge through stillness and quiet. Social interaction is cognitively expensive for a brain that's always analyzing everything. Trait 2. Their minds never fully switch off, not even during rest. People with very high IQs report their thinking never stops completely, ever. Not during rest, not late at night, not during normally relaxing activities. There's always a background process running, turning over problems and building theories. Psychologist Kazimierz Dabrowski studied this in gifted individuals and called it overexcitability, a restless internal energy that expresses itself mentally with no natural off switch. Neuroscientist Rex Young found higher intelligence is linked to richer brain connectivity overall. The highly intelligent brain doesn't just think faster, it connects across larger networks simultaneously. That constant connectivity is exactly what makes genuine rest so difficult for them. Trait 3. They feel things more deeply than they ever show outwardly. Most people assume high intelligence commies with emotional detachment and cold rational thinking, but psychology research directly contradicts this widespread assumption about intelligent people entirely. People with significantly elevated IQs actually tend to feel things with greater intensity. Dabrowski called this emotional overexcitability, heightened sensitivity to beauty, injustice, and others' suffering. A study in the journal Intelligence found higher IQ correlated with greater emotional depth. The reason this trait stays invisible is that high IQ people regulate emotions well. Trait 4. They are genuinely comfortable saying "I don't know" out loud. We tend to assume high intelligence produces high confidence, but research shows otherwise. People with very high IQs are far more likely to acknowledge knowledge limits genuinely. This connects directly to the Dunning-Kruger effect at the lower cognitive end. Lower ability often produces overconfidence because the person can't see existing complexity clearly. Highly intelligent people have thought deeply enough to see how much remains genuinely uncertain. When a high IQ person says "I don't know," that's precision, not hesitation. The person holding every opinion with absolute certainty is almost never the most intelligent. Trait 5. They struggle to find people who think at their level. Research shows this is nearly universal among highly intelligent people, though rarely discussed openly. They find it genuinely difficult to connect intellectually, not out of superiority or arrogance. Conversations that don't go deep enough leave them feeling a specific kind of unstimulated. Psychologist Leda Hollingworth called this the problem of stimulus poverty in gifted adults. It wasn't arrogance, she observed. It was a quiet longing for real conversation, someone who could follow them all the way to the bottom of ideas. High IQ people often calibrate themselves down, and their real depth never enters the room. Trait 6. They change their minds whenever the evidence genuinely changes direction. Highly intelligent people treat beliefs as working theories, not fixed parts of their identity. When new, contradicting information appears, their brain updates the model without emotional resistance. They don't experience changing their mind as a threat. They experience it as accuracy. In psychology, this is called cognitive flexibility, a marker of advanced problem-solving ability. The brain of a highly intelligent person isn't attached to being right about anything. It's interested in having the most accurate possible picture of reality at all times. People who never change their minds regardless of evidence are rarely the most intelligent. Trait 7. They observe far more than they ever actually say out loud. In group settings, highly intelligent people default to watching and listening before they speak. They listen to what isn't being said as much as to what is. They pick up patterns in social dynamics, real tension, and what conversations are actually about. Research shows higher IQ correlates with greater accuracy in reading social cues and signals. But it also means high IQ individuals need more time to process before responding. They're not slower thinkers. They're gathering more complete data before contributing anything at all. The quiet, observing person is often the one with the most complete picture. Trait 8. They procrastinate hardest on the work that matters most to them. The projects with the most personal meaning are frequently the hardest ones to begin. Smaller, lower-stakes tasks get done easily. But the meaningful work never seems to start. Researchers found this pattern isn't laziness. It's what they called complexity awareness. Before beginning, high IQ brain comprehends the full scope of what excellent requires. Every flaw the finished product might contain. Every way it could fall short. Carol Dweck's research identified this as particularly common in gifted individuals specifically. A fear not of failure exactly, but of the gap between vision and output. The procrastination isn't absence of care. It's the presence of far too much. Trait 9. They get bored faster than almost everyone around them does. Highly intelligent people habitually need more novel input to maintain the same engagement level, not just in slow meetings, at a neurological level. Yesterday's stimulus doesn't satisfy today. Research links higher cognitive ability to higher baseline dopamine activity in the prefrontal cortex, the brain's reward system for new information drops sharply when intellectual challenge disappears entirely. The restlessness isn't a mood. It's a physiological response to insufficient stimulation overall. This is why highly intelligent people pursue multiple interests and change careers more often. The brain isn't being ungrateful. It's running a search for what it needs. Trait 10. They question themselves far more than anyone around them would ever expect. People with very high IQs often experience genuine recurring doubt about their own thinking. Not performative humility, real internal uncertainty that the people around them wouldn't believe. Not because they're fragile, but because they understand complexity too well to feel certain. This connects again to the Dunning-Kruger effect, but at the high end of intelligence, the deeper your understanding, the more clearly you see how much remains genuinely uncertain. Intelligence doesn't produce certainty. It produces a more precise map of unexplored territory. Psychologist Albert Ellis found highly intelligent people held their own output to impossible standards, treating any gap between performance and potential as evidence of fundamental personal inadequacy. The self-doubt isn't a sign of lesser intelligence. It's often the signature of more. Trait 11. They carry a quiet, persistent sense of not quite belonging anywhere. Highly intelligent people frequently report feeling slightly out of sync with their immediate environment, not dramatic alienation, a subtle ongoing awareness of being on a different frequency entirely. This isn't a personality disorder or social deficiency. It's a predictable cognitive result. When your brain processes more, connects more, and feels more than the environment offers, a mild sense of displacement becomes almost completely inevitable, not because something went wrong, but because something in you simply works differently from most people around you. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi spent decades studying creativity and exceptional minds with great depth. He found individuals with greatest intellectual capacity described their inner lives as hardest to share, not because they were uniquely suffering, but because they experienced life at higher resolution. And living at that resolution changes what you notice, what you need, and what satisfies. What's interesting about all these traits is how consistently and completely they get misread. The person who needs solitude looks antisocial to everyone who doesn't understand them. The one whose mind never stops looks anxious rather than deeply and constantly engaged. The one who feels deeply looks, unexpectedly and confusingly, sensitive to people around them. The one who doubts themselves looks, uncertain rather than, genuinely self-aware and precise. The one who doesn't fit anywhere looks difficult, rather than simply operating at different depth. But sometimes what looks like a collection of quiet difficulties is actually something very specific. A mind built to process more, connect more, and go further than most environments offer. At its core, a very high IQ isn't just about knowing more or thinking faster. It's about experiencing the full complexity of the world with very little filter available. That more than any test or number is what makes it powerful and demanding. If this video described you today, leave a comment with a trait that felt accurate. I read every single comment. Share this with someone who might need to hear it.